Davenport is the third largest city in Iowa, located in southeast Iowa along the banks of the Mississippi River. The city celebrates its rich art community, thriving business sector, and storied history as one of the oldest cities in the state. Davenport is also home to our next Iowa entrepreneur story. Stone Medical, founded by Ben Stone, is a startup business in the medical field, providing a simple but game-changing product to improve the quality of medical care across the nation. Stone's invention, Clean Collect, is a patented system for collecting blood without introducing test-altering bacteria, usually caused by inconsistent blood collection methods. Ben's passion for medicine began many years ago, growing up near the small northeast Iowa town of Edgewood.
When I was younger, I grew up before internet really had started. So I was, 5, 6, 7 years old when I started learning science. My brothers and sisters, I was the youngest of 4. So they were coming in, they had all their textbooks and all their information they were getting. And I really enjoyed learning that. But as I grew older, I started getting some more books. And certain teachers, when I got into high school, would give me more college level. So I studied medicine pretty well before I got to college.
Ben then attended the University of Iowa in Iowa City, where he majored in biology. Although he was interested in attending med school after graduation, his experience at a cancer research center led him to an unexpected new passion.
I was a blood collector. I was a phlebotomist at a very small hospital, also in Iowa City. But I saw a few ways that blood was being collected in one area, and then we got to blood cultures and a very different procedure here. Ended up putting together some different ideas based on that, kind of 2 + 2 = 4 kind of concepts for ways to reduce contamination. So that's where the basic concept of what we now call the diversion method for Clean Collect came about.
Ben's new system for collecting blood aimed at solving a crucial problem in hospitals and medical facilities across the country.
Blood cultures are what they use to find bacteria in your blood. And the issue that we deal with is that the bacteria that they find is not always from the blood. A lot of times it's from the skin or it's from the environment. And we have a very simple patented method of getting rid of that bacteria.
With the blood samples free from contaminants, doctors are able to accurately diagnose patients without the risk of false positives. This prevents harm to patients in the long term.
Because those false positives result in unnecessary treatment of patients, which totals out to a $15.3 billion problem. And on our end of it, Clean Collect is it's a very affordable product, and it's designed to maximize that quality for as long as possible.
After coming up with the idea for Clean Collect, Ben still had to legally protect his new method in order to make it a viable product in the marketplace.
What we're doing is a very simple concept. It's very broad, and I didn't want to expend too many resources, didn't want to spend a ton of money trying to put this thing together and find out, well, you can get a patent, but it's going to be extremely narrow. People are just going to come in and design around it. So for me, the real hobby was learning law, patent law, and putting together a patent application, keeping it as broad as possible, and then seeing if that would actually go through. Eventually, came through with a patent that was very broad. It was kind of the best patent we could possibly get. And from there, things made sense. We had the concept protected, and now it was a good time to go forward and try to create a business.
Before Clean Collect could be available for purchase by hospitals, it first had to go through extensive amounts of research and development, clinical trials, and FDA approval. This period of time took nearly 5 years to complete.
We didn't have a way to make money yet at that time, no product to sell. So in working solo, when things don't go your way, which in this, as a startup, they don't go your way most of the time, you have to understand. There's a lot of periods where, there would be 3 or 4 things that would not work out in a given period of time. And there's a lot of points where I look at it and be like, okay, there are easier ways to make money than this.
Ben fought through those initial struggles, and 5 years after first pursuing the idea, Clean Collect was a patented, approved, and tangible product. It was time to approach hospitals and introduce Clean Collect to the market. However, Ben hit roadblocks that he didn't initially anticipate.
Well, when you're coming in to a market that you don't know that well, but you have a product that, for an average size hospital with an average level of contamination that we deal with, we're saving them in the neighborhood of $2 million a year. And we priced our products in a way that's incredibly fair, so that it costs them just a few $1,000s to get that solution on an annual basis. So it's so heavily weighted in favor of the hospital that you wouldn't think there would be many people that would say no to that, right?
Although Clean Collect was an affordable product that improved quality of healthcare, Ben found that selling the product to hospitals was extremely difficult due to restrictive contract policies held by hospitals and distributors of medical products.
We come to a hospital, we know that they're interested in what we're doing. We may have even completely proven to them that the system works. But now we get to the other side of it, which is the ability to purchase that product. And that becomes a very different story then, which was kind of a surprise. Of course, when you get the answer back, this needs to be on this contract. When you get that answer back 20, 30 times, you realize, well, of course, we have to find out who's doing these contracts. You go to the people that are doing the contracts, which are different organizations, and their answer to you is, okay, well, which hospitals are using this or buying this right now? And of course, we're telling them that, they can't buy this unless it's on contract. So they would send us back to the hospitals would be telling us that we have to be on contract. I guess at the end of the day, the story is that they can't purchase it unless it's on contract, and we can't get a contract unless they're already purchasing it. Which ends up being, of course, I think this is a classic catch-22. When you get the same answers back again and again and again, and you're proving that your system works, right? And people like it within the hospital, and you just can't sell it to them for that reason. That's the level of frustration that builds over so long, over 2 or 3 years, that would have been very easy to walk away.
Although the product was proven, Ben could not find a way to sell to larger hospitals due to these contracts. By doing business with smaller hospitals, however, a door was opened.
These were our best customers initially because they're in positions where they can make a decision. There's no central administration for a lot of these hospitals. If they like a product, they'll go out and they'll buy it. But every once in a while we come across a customer, and even though they were small, they were part of a larger system that wanted to buy the product but couldn't. And those customers for us for a period of time, when they realized that they could no longer purchase the product, some of those would get fairly upset, and they would send us up to their administration.
Ben was able to pursue the contract issues up the chain of command at these small hospitals, leading to meetings with major medical distributors. One of these distributors, Fisher Healthcare, became a strong partner.
This was the first organization that really took our full message to heart here. And they, of course, are very, very well contracted. With them as our sales partner then, a lot of the doors opened at that point, and we were able to really start proving this at some of the biggest name hospitals in the United States, national reputation level hospitals, are using our product as we speak and buying it, not just trying it out, that kind of thing, and fully purchasing our product and committing to it. To make it to this point here, where we're actually out there, we're able to sell to hospitals, we're able to help them solve the problem that we designed this product for. To me, that is what this was always meant to be. It's a very simple thing. But to jump through 1,000 hoops on the way up a mountain to get there makes it a little bit more rewarding, I guess, at the end of the day. We're not all the way there, but it's enough level of success where I get to see the good side of entrepreneurship again.
The state of Iowa is known for its fertile soil and rich farming heritage. Thousands of Iowa families are continuing in this age-old tradition. But it isn't just the farm families that rely on successful crops and livestock. Iowa's small towns also depend on a strong and healthy farm industry. Manning, Iowa is one of these towns. Founded in 1881, Manning boasts a proud German heritage, which can be seen in local attractions like the German House Barn. The house barn was first constructed in 1660 in Germany, and in 1996 it was dismantled and then rebuilt and preserved in Manning. In Manning, we find our next Iowa entrepreneur story, Puck Custom Enterprises. Puck Custom Enterprises, or PCE, is a company that has made its name by manufacturing liquid manure pumps, carts, and spreaders. Founder Ben Puck first got into business in the late 70s after his dad groomed him to take over the family farm.
He kind of tricked me. When I was in 8th grade, he gave me a sow. And then says, Ben, come in the hog house, pick out a sow. So I picked out a sow. Says, that sow and those pigs are yours now. I said, really? Yeah. The deal is, though, you got to take care of all of my hogs, too. When I graduated, I met a 70-year-old man because he was 52 when I was born. Of course, he congratulated me being graduate, and says, well, so you're going to go to college or you're going to farm? I said, well, I was going to go to college and then come back and farm. He goes, no, I'm too old. He says, I really want you to farm, and you're set up to farm. But it's your decision. And so all I ever wanted to do is farm. I was daddy's little boy, so I wanted to farm.
And in 1979, he did just that. He purchased the farm and also married his high school sweetheart, Kathy. Things seemed to be in place for the young farmer, but just as the young couple were getting their start, the farming bubble burst. Interest rates skyrocketed, and the price of corn plummeted, causing hardship for farmers all across the Midwest.
When I graduated from high school, I had over 200 fat hogs ready for sale. And then that was basically, in a way, my dad's dowry to get me started farming. And the market was like about 42 cents a hundredweight. So we'd sell a 240-pound fat hog for around $100. By the time those fat hogs got fattened, and by the time I took the babies and fattened them out, we were selling an average for that year is around 16 to 17 cents, which was below the cost that we had in corn and protein into them. And so we were just literally bleeding to death, and we had to find some other income.
With pigs selling for only a third of what they had been in the past, Ben looked for other sources of income. Initially, he found extra work cutting and baling alfalfa hay. But then Ben noticed a strange new machine at the neighboring farm.
You see our neighbor up here on top of the hill have a vacuum truck running around spreading liquid manure. And I always thought that was very intriguing because he built a new hog house, and it's a new way to raise pigs, and so we had liquid manure. And we didn't have any liquid manure on our farm because we scooped it all with straw, old school stuff. Well, so he came down one day because we were borrowing between neighbors, and I asked, I says, what's all that about? And what's that cost? So, being a genius, went back and talked to Gary, and Gary says, we ought to do that.
Not having a lot of money, Ben and his older brother Gary built a vacuum truck and started pumping liquid manure for farmers in the area. It turned out to be a guaranteed market because as long as there was livestock, there would be manure. However, the two brothers were still struggling to find enough work.
What we didn't know is what we didn't know. And unfortunately, we didn't create enough income for both of us, to live off of the vacuum trucks. And so he decided to go back to farmland and drive some truck, and we kind of agreed to separate our ways because we just couldn't take care of each other. I kept getting these antagonizing phone calls, come pump my manure. Obviously, it was calling from day one.
The demand for liquid manure pumping was growing. In order to meet the demand, Ben built more vacuum trucks.
From the beginning, we built our own stuff because, I welded all the vacuum trucks together. We fabricated them all. Of course, we took the large pieces, the barrels, the engines, the vacuum pumps, put them together, fashioned them on the trucks, because we've always been pretty handy doing that.
Even with the growing interest in liquid manure pumping, the farm crisis was taking its toll on Ben and his young family.
We didn't have enough money to pay the bills. And so we couldn't use any of the money that we generated income from because we had bills to pay. There's an awful long time. It seems like forever, but it probably went on for about 2 years where I had to go to the bank and, borrow the money to pay the interest on the notes that I couldn't pay any principal on. If our banker was not understanding and if he didn't see that we're going to live through this all, there'd have been no reason to. I should have exited. I should have not been around.
Growing up through the 80s, I never knew that things were tough. I didn't know that there was a farming crisis going on. I didn't know if we were poor or rich or anywhere in between. All I knew is that Mom was at home and there was always food on the table, and Dad worked very hard for what he had. I remember a time growing up when getting a pair of basketball shoes was a big deal. My friends had Air Jordans, so of course I wanted Air Jordans also, and I got them. And looking back now, I think those were like $80-some, and for like a fourth or fifth grade kid, you don't know any better and you take it for granted. But looking back, there were some spoils, but I also know that it was probably very hard to swallow the price of those shoes to put on my feet to play little kids basketball.
The Puck family, through the hard work of Ben and Kathy, managed to get through the toughest years of the farm crisis. As fortune would have it, the demand for manure-spreading vacuum trucks continued to rise with the increase in hog populations and indoor hog facilities. But handling the growth had its own challenges.
And it really started to ramp up in about 1994, because that's when we saw large-scale pork production really kind of come to our neighborhood. And so these 1,000-head buildings, 2,000-head buildings are starting to go up, and it's like, how are we going to solve that problem? So we bought more vacuum trucks. It was the wrong thing to do. But we just thought that you solved the problem by throwing more of the same at it, because that's what we did. We didn't change our operation. We made it more hopeless, truthfully, because we didn't innovate anything. We didn't have an opportunity to really sit back and say, well, if this continues to go on, what are you going to do? Because I couldn't find enough people to drive all the vacuum trucks. Nobody really, believe it or not, this is not glamorous work. And it's like the question in my mind was, well, where's the end of this?
The answer to increased demand wasn't more trucks. It was to be more efficient. Ben needed bigger equipment that pumped manure faster. Ben had to build the equipment himself because there wasn't anything bigger on the market.
The industry never thought about that, and it wasn't that there aren't very smart people in our industry, because there are. It just wasn't, it was not a question proposed. And so my question was, why not? Why don't we do this? Well, because that's basically the industry's answer was, well, that's not the way we're doing it. We just don't do things like that. And that's not the way we've always done it, which is the worst thing that you can say to any kind of business, is that you disallow change.
In 1998, officially incorporated as Puck Custom Enterprises, PCE performed custom manure pumping and application. But up until this point, they were building equipment for their own use. They were not an equipment manufacturer.
So this was right when I came back from college. I had some interest in trying to manufacture. Dad is very creative at inventing new ways to do things, and we saw a little bit of an opportunity. There was equipment in the marketplace that there were people looking for different ways to do things, and we were able to provide that. Puck Custom Enterprise was truly all custom business, and now it has morphed into truly a manufacturing business.
With products on the market, PCE grew rapidly. Ben's oldest son, Jeremy, now the general manager, was pushing his father to expand and build a large new facility. But that would mean putting everything back on the line.
I did push Ben very hard to build this first building, which was a huge risk. I mean, it was putting almost everything truly on the line for a building. And we had a lot of help from Iowa Area Development, from Western Iowa Power Company, from DMAC, from Region 12. I mean, it took a lot of people to help us get this up and off the ground.
Jeremy was really kind of getting to the point where he was almost a pain in my side for a while because he wanted to grow the business very, very quickly. And obviously, over the previous 15 years, we've really been through a tough time.
In 2010, they constructed the new facility, and PCE gained more room to grow and upgrade equipment, which led to an expansion of the product line. And since then, they have expanded their facilities every year to accommodate the growth.
And we grew, and we finally kind of cleared the way to where, my God, does everything have to be on the line every single day, And we've learned through consulting that we're in this whitewater, and I remember the first time the consultants come out and they says, well, it takes so long and then you're in whitewater. Where do you think you're at, Ben? It's like, I've never got out of whitewater yet. I mean, I'm on the damn raft, out of control, going down the Arkansas River. And I think we're going to go over a damn cliff here pretty soon. And it's been like that all the time, since the crisis. And so everything is on the line, and everything's always on the line.
In the early 80s, Ben could have made the decision to supplement his farm income by working a traditional job, but instead he decided to innovate and become an entrepreneur in a new industry.
I don't know what an entrepreneur actually is. If I get lucky enough to be called an entrepreneur, it's being scared to death and never want to quit.
It hasn't been easy. He has had to fight for it every step of the way. But because of it, PCE employs over 60 people from the Manning area, including his wife and 4 children.
If you're willing to stare down a rabid dog and scare that dog off before he bites you, you probably have what it takes. But you look at something and say, if it's too big and I can't handle it, you won't. If you look at something and say it's too big, but I'm going to take a piece of it, or I'm willing to risk as much as I can to be able to solve that problem, I think you've got what it takes.